Yeah, I was fortunate enough to play in the NFL for 7 seasons, and I was on one of the greatest teams of all time, the Chicago Bears, the '85 Bears, the Shuffling Crew. And I always have to throw that in there because I played with some all-time greats in Walter Payton. Uh, and his lyrics in the Super Bowl Shuffle, the Bears are not here because we greedy, we here to feed the needy. And that was actually my first community service project. And so everybody I meet, I always have to share that story there.
That was a Super Bowl team.
Well, the greatest team was all the time. You don't remember that team? 18-1?
I remember as a little kid watching that.
18-1, man. And our only loss came to the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football. And actually, after we lost that game, people don't know this, but that is when the Super Bowl Shuffle originated, because on the flight back, the guys huddled up, and we had thought about doing the Super Bowl Shuffle, but we kept thinking, no, we'll jinx ourselves. And after we lost that game, we said to ourselves, let's put the chip on our shoulders. We're gonna meet in the studio at 9 o'clock. Now take it, we landed back in Chicago probably about 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I got up that morning and I called a few people and I said, are we seriously going to shoot the Super Bowl Shuffle, talking about winning the Super Bowl 8 weeks before the Super Bowl? They made a few phone calls and they said, man, we're going to do it. And the rest is history. But we had one condition, that we were going to donate all the money to charity. And that was my first time really seeing that a true witness of being part of something to where the agenda was totally coming from a selfless standpoint.
So when did you first meet Debbie?
Well, I met Debbie in the gym. I mean, I was training, and she happened to be at the gym, and she was this person that was always on the Stairmaster. And the Stairmaster is, I have fond memories of being on the Stairmaster because of Refrigerator Perry. And Fridge and I, believe it or not, his signing bonus was tied into doing 100 steps on the Stairmaster. And so I used to get on there and push him, and a couple of times he would say, man, if I go another step, I won't live to spend the money, so I'm going to quit. I'm not going to do it anymore. And so when I used to see Debbie on the Stairmaster, I said, how many steps are you doing? And she said, I'm doing 200. And now, Fridge needed to do 100 for his $10,000 signing bonus. And so I said, Fridge, when I went back to training camp, I said, Fridge, there's this lady in Tampa. She does 200 steps, and she has no signing bonus attached to it. And so that kind of motivated him. And so Debbie and I, that was our initial meeting, was at the gym there.
And so you got to know her just at the gym, and you go on, keep playing. You're playing eventually for San Diego Chargers. You come back here to Tampa one day after your football career is over, and well, you tell me the story. So you.
Oh man.
You then some time went by, but you saw her again.
I saw her. I was going through a lot of therapy. I left the game injured myself. Had 3 surgeries, back, shoulder, knee, and I was going through that time period of going back and forth to therapy. And I run into her at the gas station, and it looks like Debbie. And I'm looking at her, and she so much smaller. And I said, what happened? And she kind of told me, I know you don't recognize me and this and that, but this is what has happened. And so we just started talking about what had happened. And that was the initial meeting, and understanding what had happened. And she was just sharing with me, this kid had shot her, and she was going through all of this surgery on her mouth, and she couldn't eat, and that's why she had lost a lot of weight. And at that time, I had gotten involved with doing some things in the area about doing football camps and things like that. And I kind of mentioned to her what I was doing. And about a year or so what goes by, and she said, I like to get involved in what you're doing. And so, I have a couple pictures of her at the camp, and she came out to the camp and helped out, and then a little time goes by again, and she finds out about, I had a young person that I had met and was mentoring who got shot and killed. And she knew about what I was trying to do as far as starting the program, and how that had inspired me to follow the students from year to year to graduation to career. And she said, well, I would like to get involved in that. She said, how you raise your money? I said, right now we don't have any funders. We don't have a fundraiser. And at that time she said, I'd like to do a fundraiser. And she was bodybuilding. She came back and got herself renewed. And I went to her first bodybuilding contest. And she was telling me, she said, I got this idea about starting a natural bodybuilding contest here in Tampa. And natural, because I don't want the drugs to be involved in it. And she said, I'd like the proceeds to go to what you're doing. And that was our first fundraiser, and she was the first, so what you see here, she believed in me while she was going through her own stuff. And during that time, she called and told me she had received a letter from Ian, the young man that had shot her. And she wanted to know my thoughts on it. Should she continue the communication? I said, well, Debbie, that has to come from your heart, and that has to come from you within. I said, I do what I do is because some kind of way there's a compassion in me that's guiding me to do it. I said, just you have to go with your heart. And and letters kept coming in, and I think that was after the phone call, and she shared every little step with me about what was going on there, and her vision and goals. Her vision and goal was, she said, I would like to see these kids who come from underserved environments to get educated. And so I hate to see Ian in this situation and just locked up and not being able to get educated.
There were a lot of people in her life then when she started getting those letters, soon after Ian called, who sort of said to her, what are you doing? This guy shot you. He's a maniac, or he's a bad person. Don't write back to him. Don't show him compassion. What did you say to her?
I told her to go with.
Oh, sorry, can I ask you? Can you just look that?
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And look at me.
Okay, that's why I shared with her to just go with her heart, because I knew she was getting those types of feedback, and you can't let negative noise get inside if it's coming from your heart. And I said, it's going to be a fear factor, because nobody is going to ever know how it turns out, because in most percentages it don't always turn out good, because the longevity, people give up. And so we're talking about 27 years, and here we are talking about the positive that has happened. And her story is now, as we talk about awakening the social consciousness of the student, and we own a facility here where there's over 3,000 students who come in and out of here, and now her story is one of the next stories of inspiring stories, which is now awakening not only the social but the spiritual consciousness of a young person. And that's where everything has to start from. And so, that in her case, I was just going with the flow, because I was operating all of this on faith. And so I was just trying to share with her to go with her faith and go with her heart.
How much courage do you think it took for her to forgive you?
Well, the forgiving part was I'm not going to say it was the easy part, because a lot of people can speak and say, I forgave somebody. But it was the fact that she cared. I could not believe the extent in which she cared for him, and how she was writing And sometimes she would get frustrated if he got in trouble at the facility, and she was like getting so frustrated, like that was her son, you know. And I'm like, you're getting too emotionally involved. Take a break and let's, you know, you don't have to write back instantly every time. But you know, I was just so shocked at her follow through, year after year after year, going out to the courthouse for so long. I mean, and that went on and on. And I thought sometimes I thought she had given up, and she'd call back and say, you know, I talked to Ian, or we wrote each other, and this went on for, you know, for year after year. You know, sometimes there wouldn't be a year, and then 3 or 4 years later, something was coming up, and you know, she was inspiring me. So it took not only courage, not to forgive, but the courage to follow through when everybody in your circle is telling you you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time, and that's what she was hearing. And you know, I heard it too on my end, starting an organization, coming out of football, you know, coming to a strange land in Tampa, nobody's knowing me, but just that compassion and that passion to want to help somebody else achieve their dreams and goals was so in me. That's what I wanted to do, and I just wanted to just be there for her.
Are we good?
You guys keep going. I'm sorry. I gotta go to the restroom.
Okay.
Again?
I might have eaten something bad today.
I think it was that thermos of coffee.
Hey.
All right.
It's in some ways it's an unbelievable story, right? You have a woman who had her mouth blown apart, and then the boy, right? He was a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Let's call it for what it is, right?
Yes.
He wasn't a man, he was a boy. He reaches out. He has the courage to say, I'm sorry. And she is willing to hold on to that extended hand. I mean, that sequence of events, I mean, that doesn't happen very often.
Well, you know, what's so amazing about Debbie is in between this time when those years were passing by, she helped out a young man that was from the public housing area here in Robles Park, and she donated proceeds out of her own pocket to help him go to college. His name is Adedayo Banwo. His dream was to become a lawyer, and now he's a lawyer over in London. She found another kid, Jasmine Tremble, who lived right down the street from here. She wanted to help him out with his books, and now he's a principal, athletic director here at Strawberry Crest. So it wasn't like her total focus was on Ian. It's just that she just said, hey, I want to make sure that I help kids who want to help themselves and get educated. But Ian was the spark that opened up her heart there. But at the same time, she was always helping out other kids there in our program.
How would you describe the impact of the work she has done, her support for your organization?
Well, you know, the fact that she did that first fundraiser, and she did it for like 3 years, and that gave us seed money along with some other organizations that stepped in. But for her to do that in the plight of what she was going through, to think not only of herself, but to want to help somebody else was just powerful. And now her story is now the fruit of it. Her story of forgiveness is a powerful thing, because you just can't you can't go to school and learn this in a book. You know, you have to go through the steps and the process of the compassion and of going through the trials and tribulations. And now it's not so much about it's about that she endured. She endured when all the negativity was in her ear, saying, "Are you crazy? Are you crazy?" And to me, that's her story is going to be forever told, because forgiveness is a powerful thing, and now people can see how powerful it really is, because it was not a great thing, me listening to her all the time while she was going through that, and all the times she was getting letters, sometimes they were not happy moments for her. They were not happy because maybe he wasn't moving along fast enough, or maybe the court systems were not willing to hear his. She had this vision of getting him out at an earlier time than 27 years, and look how long it lasts. And so a lot of the phone calls, I was just the ear. And she would say, "I'm just venting," and I say, "Okay, don't worry about it."
You made this really good point a second ago, which is, it wasn't just that she forgave and went on. She kind of became, the surrogate mother, right? She was there, you getting your GED, you doing this, she was, that's
I'm telling
pretty
you.
intense.
She's still intense with it. Man, I just cannot believe I've never seen somebody so passionate about caring about somebody who has wronged them. It's one thing to forgive, but it's another thing like getting the letters and he's not following through on his GED, and that would that was her son, So she took a personal interest in his welfare. She had no idea that her story would be told like we're sharing today. She was just doing this. I'm letting you know she was doing this from her heart.
And now her story is something you can use you're using as a teaching tool, right? You're sharing this with thousands of young people. Pardon me.
Yes, yeah, and because of her story, we've had a story to come full circle with us, because we had a young man that I was mentoring who was shot and killed back in '93, and my students know about Debbie's story, and one of my students, Ricky Saylor, wanted to see if he can help bring the parents back together as part of our Martin Luther King March on the Power of Love. And so he knew the dad whose son shot and killed my student, Albert Perry, and I knew the mom, and so the mom agreed to it, and the dad agreed to it, and they came here. And they both had gone to school at Blake High School years previously, but not at the same time. And so by Debbie putting that story out there years earlier, it stayed in the consciousness of our students who wanted to see if they can do something like that too and make it happen.
So it's inspired other acts of forgiveness.
Definitely has inspired other acts of forgiveness. And acts of forgiveness is a powerful thing, because a lot of people look at these stories and say, "Man, I could never do that. I can never do that." And if they hear about it, but when they see it in action, then they say, I want to be part of something like that, or I just have so much, it's inspiring.
Can I trouble you? I asked you about, real briefly, to describe your football career. Can I trouble you to say it again, but to add in what you're doing now? So if you might say, I played in the NFL for 7 seasons, right? For 7 years in the
Yes.
NFL, as a defensive lineman, including on the Super Bowl winning 1985 Chicago Bears. I now run, or what's the right word for? What's your role? The founder, director of Ball Sports. If you can just say that, and maybe just a couple other words, what Ball Sports does.
Okay. All right. Played 7 years in the National Football League, 2 years up in the CFL. And then after retirement, I came to Tampa and I started a program called All Sports Community Service. And it's initially started off as a scholarship mentoring program to where we move with students year to year to graduation to career, and we have them come back and repeat the cycle. And now we have over 100 former students who are now teachers, educators, and youth coaches. And now they have these branches, and so we call ourselves, people have coined us All Sports Community Service, from the root to the fruit. And now we have this facility in which I'm the founder and the co-founder of some of the former NFL players. We have this site that's called the All Sports Mentor Legacy Center. And so here young kids and students can come in and they can see the stories from the root to the fruit, and they can see our motto in action, from passion, compassion to action, and how it's coming full circle and continue to go circle, it's a fruit.
Can I trouble you to say it one different way? Say, if you might tell me, after I retired from the NFL, I founded All Sports Community.
All Sports Community Service.
Oh yeah, I founded All Sports Community Services. And we have sent more than 1,000. Is it Tampa area students to college? Would that be the right area?
Just all across. Yeah,
Florida?
well, no, 1,000 in Florida. Yes.
1,000. We sent 1,000 Florida students to college. Or
Mm-hmm.
If you might just that one figure. Could you do that?
Okay.
For me? Yeah.
Okay.
So after I retired from the NFL, I founded All Sports Community Services, an organization that has put more than 1,000 Florida students, or sent more than 1,000 students in Florida to college, or something like that.
Okay.
However you'd say it.
Okay. After I retired from the National Football League, I started a program called All Sports Community Service, and we've assisted over 1,000 kids from the Florida area in going off to college.
Perfect. I think that all sounds great to me. Anything you think we're missing?
I heard 2 lines in there that
Brilliant.
I was like, oh my god.
Brilliant.
that's perfect.
No. You're awesome. How old are you, Taryn?
57.
57.
That's the right, Reggie.
Pardon me? Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
You're 50. Okay. I think we're good. This was fantastic. You certainly are an expert at doing this stuff. And
Well-
you have the passion.
I would ask one question.
Yeah, please.
Can you describe to Rajiv, you did this earlier a little bit, but I'd like to just hear it again. Describe what compassion is to you.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I'll ask you, what is compassion mean to you?
I'm going to share with you the way we share with the students in a conversation standpoint.
Please.
Instead of a soundbite. I have my former students, and they do these college bus tours, and they take these kids to colleges, and they showcase them to the colleges, and they end up getting scholarships. And some of the kids go off and play professionally. And they said, Mr. Keys, why don't they come back and give back like we came back to give back to you? I said, not all of you guys came back. I said, what they're doing is they're going on the trips because of their passion for the sport. But, before you guys can be part of the All Sports Community Service, you had to do the community piece. And my hopes were that you were going to take your passion, that I can help you get a scholarship. But the ultimate thing was to create compassion, because until you have an opportunity to give back and get beyond self, it's going to stay passion. That means that's you wanting something. Compassion is when your heart opens up and you want to give to somebody else. It becomes something bigger than you. That's compassion.
Pardon me. Can you start with it become something bigger than you?
Passion is when you want something so badly, it's all head knowledge, it's you. Compassion is when now you're taking passion and now you want to be involved in something that's just bigger than you. And it encompasses the masses, and now you begin to have this feeling that this is what you were called to do. And it becomes compassion. You become compassionate toward people, and you want to help them not just teach them, you want to be part of them. You want to help them really, really succeed and not just see them that one time and that one time and place. As a school teacher, you want to just help them learn more than the X's and the O's. And as a coach, you want to help them become more than the X's and the O's. You want to take that and show them how to apply it to the rest of their lives there, and in hopes that it comes back to help somebody else. But you're doing it from a selfless standpoint.
So let's do silent for 10 seconds for some. We just get the sound of the room so they can edit. Just 10 seconds.
I do want to say one other thing about compassion. There's no hidden agendas in compassion. In compassion, your agenda is no agenda. You just giving because that's who you are. And it unfolds.